Well, when two members of parliament came forward this week with allegations of misconduct, there was no official system in place to deal with their complaints. And certainly they're not the only ones dealing with harassment claims in the workplace. CBC and Jian Ghomeshi are involved in a high-profile case. It's an issue that's been widely discussed in recent days. So for more on how to deal with harassment in the workplace, let's turn to Blaine Donais. He helps companies build internal systems to deal with workplace harassment claims. He joins us now by Skype from Toronto. So Blaine, thanks for taking the time to speak with us. I mentioned that you help companies build systems. What's at the core of those systems?
Well, for the kinds of issues that we're talking about here, the founding principle would be equality of concern and respect for individual employees. And the policies and procedures that are put in place are based on that, human rights, harassment procedures and policies. And what many workplaces are doing these days is providing a sort of an ombuds function, which has a kind of an independent, informal, confidential, and impartial agent in the workplace that will create a safe work environment for employees who have these sorts of challenges that we're talking about at the House of Parliament.
Blaine, I'd imagine it's one thing to put those policies in place, but what makes the system effective?
I think the main thing that makes a system effective is that it allows people who have issues or concerns the opportunity to have some kind of control over how those issues are going to be dealt with. Old style human rights harassment procedures weren't very effective at that because they were just a single procedure that, was a one size fits all. But nowadays, there's more of a sense of self-determination in the procedures and also keeping in mind that more modern policies also include the requirement to have professionals doing the work. And they understand far better how to create a safe environment where such issues can be raised.
Blaine, I wondered, can you give us an example or a situation? What happens when there isn't the proper policies and systems in place to deal with harassment? What does that look like?
Well, I think we saw that in the last couple of days, right? The situation at the House of Parliament is a classic example of this. Here you have well-meaning people trying to do the right thing and doing it without a system. And it's sort of like this. When your only tool is a hammer, you see every problem as a nail. And with the lack of a system at the House of Parliament, what's happened? The result has been, notwithstanding the good intentions of everybody involved, the result has been that you've got two members of Parliament that are going to suffer damage without any sort of process, and also two victims that have been re-victimized. I think had the House of Parliament be treated as a modern workplace, things would have been very different. There would have been a standard human rights harassment policy, and perhaps an ombuds function that's administered by professionals who understand these issues, understand how to deal with them, the sensitivity involved, and would be much better able to help create a safe environment for people going through it.
Mm-hmm. Blaine, I'm running out of time here, but I want to ask you quickly, do you think the events that we've watched unfold in recent weeks, do you think that they would spur more victims of harassment to speak up, or do you think that it would make them question whether they should do that?
Well, I think that there's two answers to that. The first is that the issues being raised in the press in the first place, in the case of Ghomeshi, has been positive in the sense of encouraging women to speak up. However, without a proper process, what has happened at the House of Parliament is that it's actually discouraged, I believe, will discourage people from coming forward, because when somebody gets victimized, re-victimized, the other person, anybody else thinking about stepping forward is going to think twice. And I think Megan Leslie made that very clear in her statements yesterday to CBC that if you don't have a process in place that creates a safe environment for people, then they will feel re-victimized, and everybody else around will know what's happened and have no desire to come forward.
Yeah, interesting. Blaine, I want to thank you very much for your time and your insight. We really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you, Christine.
Blaine Donais is the president of Workplace Fairness Institute, and he was speaking to us from Toronto.